welcome to another episode of Stuck in My Podcast. I am your host, Wize, and today's guest went from sweeping floors at a bike shop at 12 to running sales training for a $2 billion company, and then walking away to build a business that helps people dream bigger and do more. Mitch Matthews is the creator of Six Figure Sequence, host of of the top 1% global podcast Dream, Think, Do, and a coach and speaker who's worked with NASA, Nike, and United Airlines. He's on a mission to launch 1 million dreams, and he's here to show you how to build something on something on purpose. So let's welcome to the show, Mitch Matthews.
I love it. Man, what a great intro. I appreciate you. I feel better. I'm ready to go.
Let's do this. All right. So Mitch, what you talked your way into a bike shop at 12. What did that job teach you about entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I love it. So yeah, I was kind of an extreme kid. Maybe you can identify, but I had all these kind of different things that I was fascinated by, I get excited about. And at the age of 12, I was very excited about my bicycle. I wasn't cool. I didn't have a motorcycle. I want to be clear. This was a push bike, a bicycle. And I lived in a small town in Iowa. And in this small town, there was one bike shop. And it was 2 blocks off the square. We kind of had one of those Hallmark movie, as you can imagine, squares where there was a courthouse and all these shops around the courthouse and a square. But we weren't cool enough to be on that square. We were 2 blocks off of that, but we were next to a Goodwill and around the corner from the only strip club in town. So it was definitely a place to hang out when I was 12. But I just basically spent every day of that summer just hanging out at the bike shop, just doing whatever I could to not get arrested for loitering. And because I was just so fascinated with bikes and, putting bikes together and selling bikes and all this kind of stuff. So at the end of that summer, the bike shop owner and his wife decided they should hire me, which I was very grateful for because they probably could have had me arrested. And then they just raised me up in that environment, and my extreme interest shifted, unbeknownst to me. It shifted from being really engaged with bicycles to then falling in love with entrepreneurship. And it truly was a journey of learning that, you can build something. Like Marty, the owner of the bike shop, had built something based on his passions. And he'd done something similar. Like there was a bike shop owner in the small town he grew up in, and he kind of did the same thing with him and really learned the trade by just being in the trenches at an early age, and then had launched this bike shop. And so I kind of fell into his footsteps and learned not just about bikes, but how to sell bikes, how to put bikes together. Although we figured out very quickly I'm not all that mechanically gifted. So it was definitely more the selling bikes that I specialized in. But I fell in love with that so much so that my first company when I was in my 20s was to do sales training for small retail shops like our bike shop. And that was one of the ways that I kind of put myself through college.
So you climb the ladder in corporate America, but you call it hitting the bad fit ceiling. What happened?
Yeah, absolutely. So I did after the bike shop. I went to college and came out of college, went into business to business sales, and then went into pharmaceutical sales. And this was back in the 90s and early 2000s. And it was a real fun industry to be in. It was a high science sale. It was really relational. I sold a specialty drugs. I was only working with specialists, and I really enjoyed it immensely. And I wound up managing a territory. My wife and I both grew up in Iowa, but we'd always wanted to live in the mountains. And so after graduation, we moved out to Montana, and that's where I got into pharmaceuticals. So I joke, but I basically had a territory that was the northern half of the Louisiana Purchase. So I had Montana, a chunk of Wyoming, and a chunk of Idaho. So I drove a lot, but I wound up having a lot of success, even though I had this territory that nobody knew about. I really got on the radar of the home office, and over a course of time, I got promoted into the home office and was helping to run the training department of this $2 billion pharmaceutical company. And then, as you say, I got promoted into a bad fit job. I thought that it was going to be a good fit for me, but within days of accepting it, I knew I'd made a massive mistake. It wasn't a bad job necessarily; it was just a bad fit for me. And basically, from day one, it just started killing my soul. And I joke about it now, but it was painful at the time that we were living a sitcom life. My wife stayed home with our two boys at the time. So we were living the single income, two children, oppressive mortgage life, the sitcom life. And so I couldn't just quit the job. But I'm grateful for hitting that ceiling, that bad fit job, because it really woke me up and reminded me of the dream that I had of having my own business and building something of my own. So I did that. I started to build a coaching and speaking business on the side of that bad fit job, and worked that bad fit job for about 2 years until we got things working, and I was able to leave that bad fit job and launch our own business, and been doing that ever since.
So, what was their fear leaving a stable income with a family and mortgage? And,
Massive,
and
massive,
how did you?
massive fear. Yeah, absolutely, if I'm being honest. But it's one of the things that we did, which I'm wildly grateful for now, is that I was horrified of that. I had grown up. My parents are amazing parents, and not but and my mom was an accountant, and my dad was a warden in a prison. So not a lot of entrepreneurial blood in our family. We had consistent income. That's what I'd grown up in. Um, but it's one of those where I knew my calling was to build something of our own. And so I started to do that on the side. And it's funny, we now coach other coaches and speakers and content creators to build businesses. But that's often what we recommend, is that they build it on the side over the course of time, and then launch it when they hit what they call as their leap number, what we call as a leap number. And that's what we did. Was we set our sights on launching our own business full time, but for us, we had to hit a leap number, which is what we now teach, is to be able to say, hey, decide what that is for you. Like, when are you going to leap? Because it doesn't have to be a blind leap of faith. And even though you might feel a little fear on, replacing regular income, I always say focus on your leap number. And the leap number is a specific equation that we teach, in that, most of our folks are building it on the side. So they can't completely replace their income by doing it on the side. So what I always say is, your leap number is decide on a certain number of months and a certain percentage of your regular income. And once you hit that number, then that's your leap number. And for us, it was 35% of my income 3 months in a row. And, when we set that as a goal, we just came up with that figure and set that as a goal that my wife and I both pray a lot. And that became our prayer target for our business. Like, hey, God, when you see us ready, then let us hit this leap number. And I can tell you, well, like the first month, we nailed it. We did it. And I thought, oh, this thing's going to be easy. Let's go. And the next month, goose eggs, nothing. Next month, goose eggs, nothing. And what I realized was, in that first month, I'd done a lot of the right things. And so I took my foot off the gas pedal and just coasted. And that's, I think, what a lot of people do, is when it first starts to click, it's like, all right, stop doing the things that made it work and coast. Right. And so what I did was I refocused on the very things that we now teach. You mentioned it in my intro, is we teach this thing we call the 6-figure sequence, which is a sequence of specific steps to take to build, a side business that can turn into a full-time business, and do those consistently. And I started to do that. And what I thought was going to probably be a 5-year process, we were able to launch that full-time business in 6 months. And so we were able to hit that mark of 35% of my income 3 months in a row. And so we knew that if we were able to do that, we had the systems in place to be able to say, all right, we have a business, And if I'm then able to devote 100% of my time, there's a good chance that we'll be able to hit and surpass what I was making before. So that was for us. I needed, some numbers. I needed an equation to be able to say, okay, this isn't a blind leap of faith. This can be an intentional step of faith. And that is what let us do that.
Awesome. So what mistakes did you make when you first started coaching and speaking?
All of them. Just all of them. Yeah, like, well, what's funny is this, and we teach on this, is I actually signed up with a large coaching training company, and kinda my first mistake was I thought that, the company that I sign up with, that's what's gonna give me credibility, that I can tell everybody that I am certified through this organization, and that's gonna make people want to work with me, right? And that was my first mistake. I do believe in investing in yourself and getting training that helps you to be a more confident and competent coach and
Mhm.
speaker, whatever you want to be, right? That's our world. But whatever you want to be, get additional training to help you be better at that, right?
Oh, yeah.
But don't expect the name of whichever organization you invest in. Don't expect that that is the thing that's going to get you clients, right? I used to think that, hey, if I have this big name over my company, then that's going to be what gives me credibility. That's going to be what gives me connection. And what's interesting about that, as you probably know, is that thing of being able to say, hey, if if you market yourself as, a X and Y certified coach or speaker or facilitator, oftentimes what people will do is, well, why wouldn't I just go with that big company then? Like, why wouldn't I just hire that big name? So I always say, get the training that helps you to become confident and competent, but build your own
Right.
company.
Yeah.
Be able to build your confidence in who you are and what you offer specifically. And so that was something that I had to do as a little bit of a wake up call. But you pair that with, I chose this big name coaching company, but I didn't happen to ask, hey, do you guys teach on business stuff? Like, how do I actually launch the business? And they didn't. I got to the end of all this expensive training and all these trips and travel and all of this, and realized, like, oh wow, we've been talking about coaching for a long time, but nobody's talking about how to do it as a
Yeah.
business. And that was another big mistake. And we now coaches, and we train coaches and speakers, and we've done research that that's not a rare thing. In fact, the research that we've done, it's less than 15% of coach training and speaker training organizations actually teach the business of coaching and speaking, which is hard news, but it's kind of good news too, because if you actually know how to build a business, there's a lot of people that say, oh, there's so many coaches, oh, there's so many speakers out there. But actually, there's not that many that actually know how to run their business, which is sad because there's a lot of people who need coaches, right? But there's not that many coaches that are actually running legitimate, successful, sustainable businesses. And so that's something that we pride ourselves on, is that our coach training, our speaker training, it's 25% coach training, 75% business launch training, because that's so important. And speaking of all the mistakes, I had to make all those mistakes when I was starting out, but I was blessed enough to have some mentors in my life that would, guide me and kind of correct some of my behaviors and things like that, to then help me say, oh, there is a sequence here. There is something that when I do this sequence consistently, I onboard great fit clients. And so that's now what we teach as well. But I had to make all those mistakes in order to learn it for myself.
Oh yeah, no, I've been on. Oh man, so this year we launched a publishing company,
Yeah.
and actually we published our like we've published books, but it was more of our own personal books, me and my nephew.
Love it.
But we finally published someone else's book that's not family. It's this young lady, and right here I got the
Oh, look at that.
first copy, and it's a children's book. I help illustrate it.
Oh my gosh, man, where do your skills
And
stop?
so,
Like, you're incredible. You're a renaissance man.
well, it's just so much, like, just starting a podcast, it like, all these creative juices, like, I've always thought, because I've always played sports and was
Yep.
into sports and everything. And so when I started podcasting, it's like the creative side of me started opening up, and I started doing more things. I've launched an internet radio station. I've launched a
Amazing.
publishing company, and all these things. A lot of this, I've just been YouTube University,
Yep.
just going to learn. And one of the things I did get, like how you mentioned, um, taking a course and getting trained by brand name by I got certified as a life coach in these past 5 years as well. So it's just all these things. I'm like, all right, they just, I just found interest in them and just started
Yep.
diving right in, and just one thing led to another.
That's
I,
beautiful.
I helped my nephew publish his book, and we started working with people, and so I started learning from them, and I learned how to do it on my own, going to KDP and finding
Yeah,
is
that's amazing, right? The tools we have access to is incredible,
wasn't
but
all
you have to give yourself that permission to experiment, and that's what you're doing is you're giving yourself that permission to say, "Hey, it may not be pretty, it may not be perfect, it may not go the way that I thought it would go, but I'm gonna learn."
yeah.
And, like, I love it how you're turning you're not just building a business, you're building a way of life, and
Mhm.
that's the way to do it. That's fantastic.
So looking back, what was the turning point where you knew you couldn't go back to safe?
Yeah. Well, what's funny is that um, we talk about this all the time. Growing up, there would be certain notes on my report card. Like talks a lot in class or does not always play well with others. Those kinds of things, right? And a few years ago, some of my friends that are fellow entrepreneurs, one of my friends came and he's like, "I realized today is the day I am unemployable." He's like, "I just like running my own show too much. I like having control." I said, "Yeah." I said, what's amazing is that in order to step into entrepreneurship, whether it's on the side or full time, what's wild about it is you have to give up a certain amount of control in order to gain a
Oh,
certain amount of control.
mhm.
Right. I know when I was in the pharmaceutical world, especially, the second company that I was in, multi-billion dollar organization, and I truly felt like a cog. Like I had never felt before in my life. That promotion moved me into a position I thought was going to be legit. And that also meant moving into a completely different organization, a completely different culture. And that culture was just this side of robotic, right? They wanted me to follow a set script, a set code, very little decision making, very little risk, all of those things. And oh my gosh, it just woke up that inner entrepreneur in me. And I realized, like, I want more control. I want to be able to design my day. I want to be able to focus on the kind of people that I'm going to interact with and engage with and serve. Right. And so I wanted more control. And what I realized is the great irony of that is then I also had to give up control, like the predictable income, what I thought was kind of the only way to make money. And what's interesting is that, and you've probably had this experience, but like I white knuckled for the longest time, I white knuckled that predictable income, thinking that was the only way to do it. And what's interesting about this now is once you understand how to do it, and I think it's also the grace of God as far as being able to walk in creativity and helping others and being a curiosity in the marketplace. But I now have had months where I made more than I used to make in a year in that predictable job, right? But I had to give up some of that control in order to get the control that I wanted. And there's still times where it feels like a risk. It would be nice to be able to say, "Oh yeah, I don't have to worry about my bank account. I don't have to worry about my sales goals. I don't have to worry about." But any job, I mean, what's amazing about that is that there are people who, again, they're not willing to give up kind of the consistency and that control in order to get the control they want. But I've had friends that are in that have worked for decades in jobs they hated in order to stay safe. And, those were the ones that were surprised by layoffs and downsizing and pink slips. So I always say, like, there's no truly safe position or industry because things are always changing, things are always evolving. So if that's the case, why not do something you love?
Mm.
Why not do something you're really good at? And it's not for everybody. Entrepreneurship is not for everybody. And it's not
Absolutely.
for every season of life. But for certain seasons and for certain individuals, it is amazing.
I'm getting to that season.
Yep. But I love that you're giving yourself permission to experiment, and I think that's what you have to do, and I think the kind of like we talk about this all the time. We have a new program called the Authority Bridge, and it's a program that comes alongside professionals, and helps them build a coaching and speaking business on the side of whatever they're doing. And I always say, like, one of the best ways to start is to start experimenting on the side of something that brings in consistent income. Because the best experimenting initially tends to be when you can actually learn from it and you're not dependent on its income initially. Like, I want my people to make a lot of money, but oftentimes the best way to start is to start and cultivate an experiment when you're not immediately dependent on its income. So you're doing that. Like, you're experimenting. You're experimenting with podcasting and publishing. And so, like, that's a great way to begin.
Yeah, I know, and then, when you ask you how do I supplement the podcast and everything,
Yeah.
is doing stuff like that.
Yep.
It's going out and helping someone publish their first book, or it's
Yeah.
going out and helping someone launch their own podcast, or whatever it is, or whatever kind of thing I can help them out in. So, yeah, I've been able to learn skills that everybody's worried about getting sponsorships and all this other stuff, getting their podcast monetized. I've learned how to monetize the skills that I've developed.
Yep. That's the best way. Yep. Absolutely. And to have ways that people engage with you that they can onboard and work with you that don't feel weird, that don't feel awkward, right? Like, to be able to say that, you can call out and say, "Hey, I'm helping people do this," and people within your tribe can raise their hand and say, "I want some of that," right? Like, and it doesn't have to be awkward. It can be completely natural if you're serving people and delivering value on a consistent basis. It really lends itself to those kinds of conversations. If you truly have something you want to offer them that you're proud of, you're excited about, that you can monetize, all of those things. And, when you're doing that, it doesn't have to be schwarmy. It doesn't have to be manipulative. And, obviously it's absolutely best if it's not.
No, it was amazing because we just, like I said, we just launched the publishing company
Yeah.
in the May, and so this young lady went to work at this mechanic shop that my wife and her brother own. And she was talking to my wife, and she mentioned that, "Oh, yeah, I have this book that I wanna put out and whatever." And my wife goes, "Oh, yeah? Well, you need to speak to my husband because he's published books."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Really?" So she sent me the book and everything, and I worked on it, and, I added to it 'cause it was a just a little nice half a page or whatever
Sure.
it was. And then I worked on it, and I added more to it, and by the end of the week, I had it ready, and she was amazed
I
because
bet.
she
That's
she
incredible.
she had been working on it. She had been wanting reaching out to people and never got anywhere with it. And here she comes along, starts this new position, and now look, she meets someone who can help her get her dream accomplished.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so it's a wonderful feeling to be able to help someone that's been wanting to get their dream out there.
Yep. And
And
that's beautiful because that's what I love about that as an example is, and I don't know what the arrangements were, but I hope you charged her for that work, right? Like, you
oh,
certainly
no, no, yeah,
deserve to charge her for that work.
absolutely.
And, you have been working those muscles, right, of understanding industry, understand publishing, understanding promotion, all those things. You've been working those muscles. So you could come alongside somebody and say, hey, this, will help you with this. And I'm sure that it's one of those that you were able to allow her to stay in her strengths and then be able to, bring in your strengths to make it a true win-win. So that's fantastic.
Oh yeah, no, and it's something I'm very proud of. I'm like, yeah, like I said, it's something else to publish your own book, but to go out
Right.
and actually go and publish someone else's and give them the opportunity to live their dream and be like,
Yep.
because like she said, she's had these books and she's like now she's written 3 more that she has.
Wow, that's incredible. I love it. Well, then that's the thing. Like I've been coaching since 2002, but one of our Authority Bridge clients who's a successful leader and she's been working on launching her coaching business and she had her official launch last week and she sent me an email at the end of the week, excited, energized, letting me know she picked up 2 great fit clients in this week of just, excitement and all these things. And she was just so grateful. She was so like happy and joy filled and all of that. And it's so fun because I can tell you, like, I feel a sense of satisfaction when I coach my own clients, when I onboard a great client, all those things. I feel a certain level of satisfaction that is priceless, but it's a whole other level, as when you help somebody to do that
Yeah.
and you can go, "Oh my gosh, that's what I could do all freaking day long." So, I love that.
So yeah, no, so they were messaging because I just got the proof copy and she's like, "Oh man, how can I get one?" I was like, well, you're gonna actually get this copy that I have."
Yeah,
I said, this is the first printout of your book, and I would
wow.
be honored if you mind if I give it to you. Is my gift to you
Yeah,
for you actually giving me an opportunity and be my first experience.
right.
Like so, I'm like, thank you. So yeah, so she's so excited. We're gonna meet later on this week, and
Oh, that's
and
great. Congratulations. That's a great story.
yeah, so it's great to be able to have those experiences and do all those things. And like I said, it's to me, it's so much fun. It's not like work to me doing
Right.
all this. It's just so much fun to be able to learn these skills and when I at first it was like so much learning and stuff, but I was like, once you start doing it, it's just and you start repeating it over and over, it just gets so much easier.
Yep. That's a beautiful thing. I love it.
So, what exactly is the six-figure sequence and how did it change your life?
Well, yeah. So, what's interesting about it is it's a process. It's literally a sequence, a step by step sequence, and I uncovered it through a mentor of mine. I was having all sorts of frustrations. I wasn't bringing on great fit clients. I wasn't attracting the kind of people that I wanted to work with, and I was frustrated. And so I reached out to one of my mentors who was a seasoned entrepreneur, and he's like, "Hey, let's meet for coffee." And he named this coffee shop, this little coffee shop that was very successful in my town. And so I met him there, and we were sitting at a table together. And I, within 5 minutes, am lamenting all of the woes of trying to start and launch and grow a coaching business. And what was interesting is he stopped me and he's like, "Hey, I appreciate it. I know that's hard." And he had a number of successful businesses under his belt. And so whenever he spoke, it was a little bit like talking to Gandalf and Yoda at the same time. Like I always wanted to hear whatever he had to say. And sometimes he would speak in kind of what seemed like riddles at the time. And he didn't stop there. He said, "Hey, let me stop you real quick. I know it's hard, but what's your sequence?" And I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "What's your sequence?" And I'm like, I don't know. And we had that kind of relationship where when he started to speak in riddles, I always appreciated it, but I also didn't mind just saying, "Talk to me in English." Like, what do you mean? Right. And he said, every successful, sustainable, growing business has a winning sequence.
Mm.
And I'm like, okay. And he goes, take this coffee shop as an example. I said, okay. And I looked around and it was bustling. It was busy. It wasn't a big name, coffee shop, but it was locally owned, but diehard, diehard people, and the place was packed, lined to the door. He's like, tell me what you think this coffee shop sequence is. I'm like, I still don't understand what you mean. He goes, I think you do. You're just not letting yourself understand it. He said, you walked in the door. What did you do? And I said, well, I walked from the door to the cash register. He's like, okay. And then what? And I said, well, then I looked at the menu and I ordered. I said, first of all, they greeted me warmly like they always do and treated me like a human and all those things. And then I selected my whatever I wanted, my drink, and they had a special coffee drink with honey in it, which was incredible. They still do. It's wildly addictive. I think it might be laced with crack too. I don't know, but it's like a signature drink. And so I said I ordered that, and then I stood over there and I waited for my drink, and then I came over here, and then I found you. And he goes, okay, so walk me through their sequence. And I said, okay. I said, there's a pathway, there's a door, there's a pathway, there's a menu, there's a cash register, there's somebody greeting me, they have somebody that completes the order, there's the waiting, there's the seating there. He's like, yeah, you're starting to get it. He said, but the sequence didn't start there, did it? I said, what do you mean? He goes, how'd you hear about this coffee shop? I said, well, you invited me like 3 times ago and you said we have to come here. And he's like, exactly. I said, but do you think everybody was invited by me? And I said, no. And he goes, so somehow they have figured out a way to get the word out about what they do. He's like, but do you see any ads anywhere? You see any billboards, newspapers, Facebook ads? Do you see anything? I was like, no. He said, it must be all word of mouth. He's like, right. You suppose they have a sequence for that? I said, I suppose they do. And he goes, and the sequence, you're seeing it in here? And I said, okay, I'm starting to get it. Like I'm starting to get the pieces of their sequence. He goes, now what's your sequence?
Mm.
How are people hearing about you? Once they hear about you, what do they do? Once they come to your website, what do they do? Does it make sense? Is there order to it? Is it compelling? Does it inspire curiosity? Does it inspire engagement? Is there a clear pathway? And I'm like, honestly, no to all of that, right? Like, I'd be doing all of this kind of activity for promotion. And then I do all this activity for, and I said, there's just all this experience of whirling dervish, just here's chaos and here's chaos and here's chaos. He's like, just figure out one sequence and build from there. And so that's what I did was I started to build the sequence into my business. And this 6-figure sequence is now what we teach. And what's beautiful about the 6-figure sequence, it was a game changer for me. And so what I did was I started to teach other coaches. I started my coaching practice in 2002. Well, I started in 2001. We went full time in 2002. And I just did coaching and speaking. And then other coaches really started to take note, and they're like, okay, well, you're obviously successful. What are you doing? And so in 2006, I started to teach other coaches this sequence in little boutiques, and then in 2000 boutique trainings. And then in 2011, somebody who went through our training came to me and said, hey, I think you're being selfish. And I was like, why is that? He goes, you're just doing these trainings for groups of 6 or 8. He's like, you're not, trying to do it for thousands. He's like, but you should bring this online so it can help more people. There's a lot of people who need your help, but you like doing these small trainings. And I was like, I do, but online training sucks. And he goes, it does, but it doesn't have to suck. I was like, okay. So then we brought it online in 2011. And since then we've been able to help thousands of coaches around the world. And the thing that I'm most excited about is the 6-figure sequence helped me. And then the 6-figure sequence helped these coaches in these little boutique trainings. But then as people started to follow the sequence in our online training, and some of them never actually even talked to me. They were immersed in our training, but they were just following the sequence. It worked for them, and it worked in different countries. It worked in different states, all those things. So that's been the thing that's been most exciting, is that when people have a clear cut 1, 2, 3, 4 sequence, like smart people can follow it. And that's what I love about it. And I don't know about you, but I'm a to-do list guy. Like so much so that like when I did something today that wasn't on my to-do list, I went back into my app and I put the thing in there so I could check it off. Like I'm that weird, you know what I mean? But I'm like, I'm going to get that satisfaction of checking this thing off. Our training program is actually built like a to-do list. So it's like, do this, don't move on to the next task until you get this done. And people can put their own unique spin on each step, but it's like, do not move on until you've got this checked off and this checked off and this checked off. And it's allowed people that have felt stuck for a very long time to finally get the momentum that they needed and the clarity that they needed to onboard great fit clients. And I know that might sound like hype, but it's amazing the number of people that we've been able to help in a number of different industries and a number of different, coaching kind of ideal client profiles. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing.
It's like anything when you build a system,
right?
That's successful. Like look at McDonald's, they built a system.
Right?
Anything you see out there, they've built anything that's successful. They've built a system. So
Yep.
you build a system that's beneficial to coaching, and
Yep.
it stems from experiences you've had and things like the same thing with me and podcasting is.
Yep.
All right, I'm trying to help navigate the potholes that I went through,
Right.
the stuff that I experienced as a podcaster, and not knowing what an RSS feed, how to put a description. My first
Yep.
first few months of it was just the title, and that's it. It was nothing else. There was no description, no show notes, no
Yeah.
caption, none of that. It was just
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna just release this and put it out there. So of course I've had to build a system. I've had to build something where now it's what used to take me 2-3 hours to get ready for a show, 20 minutes.
Yeah. That's a
So
beautiful thing,
it's just
right?
helped me.
That makes it a lot more sustainable.
Mhm. It makes it so
Yep.
much easier. It makes much more life so much easier for me being able to do that.
Right. Well, and that's an important part. Like, part of it is revenue, right? Being able to generate revenue, and of course, I always say you have to have a heart for impact.
Yeah.
But I have a heart for people. We call them encouragers, coaches, speakers, content creators. We call them encouragers. They are the people that help others to be more of who they were created to be, right? And I always say, hey, you got to have a natural passion for encouraging others.
Mhm.
But I also believe that if you're doing that important work, that you deserve to be paid well for that important work. So we have t-shirts made said, I am a well-paid encourager, right? And you should not feel bad about that. That's like, yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. And so that is, that's a big belief of mine, is because I do think a lot of people that are drawn to coaching or speaking or podcasting, they have a natural bent. Like I can tell you're a great communicator. You probably always have been. And so what's interesting is that a lot of times when people are naturally good at something, they sometimes have a harder time charging for that thing because they're like, well, I've always been natural at this, or I've always kind of done it for free. Why would I start charging thousands of dollars for it? Right. Well, it's like partly because you're naturally good at something and you've honed a set of skills, you deserve to be paid well. I always say, like, if you have to have surgery, which hopefully you don't, but if somebody had to have surgery, you would hope that their doctor, the surgeon, has always been good and has a natural proclivity towards science, right? And then you also hope that they got some additional training so they know what they're doing, right? So they took natural ability, they got additional training. And then my guess is if you're getting surgery, you are more than willing to pay that person for that work. So why shouldn't the same rules apply to coaching, speaking, content creation?
And yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm naturally a pretty good teacher. Like
Yep.
because
I can tell.
my day job, I'm a pit boss floor supervisor in a casino.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So
Boy, you see all of humanity.
yeah, it's
All the best and worst and probably
yeah,
daily. Yeah.
yes. But I also I'm I I floor supervise craps, and we have some new dealers, and there's a difference when
Oh boy.
me and this other pit bull sit down and sit box for them, and the box person is the person who sits there at the craps table with the 3 dealers, and so we have some break-ins, it takes years for people to master craps, honestly,
Yeah. Oh, I can only imagine.
to me, a
I
few
can
years.
only imagine.
So when I sit box, they feel so much more secure with me
Yep.
because I'm teaching them. Whereas if it's someone else, they're rushing the game along, not teaching them the game. Whereas I'm naturally inclined to be like, this is how we do it. These are steps that you do to make it life. And so these dealers, thank you so much. It
Oh, I
feels
bet.
good for them to be like, I love when you sit box because I get to actually learn.
Yep.
And
Yep.
and it's a fast moving game,
Oh, I bet.
but
I bet.
it took me a year or so to actually be considered a craps dealer because
I bet.
so it
Well, and
took
I would imagine, like, that is so metaphor rich. Like, your day job is so metaphor rich, right? There are so many stories, I'm sure, that come from what you do
yes.
during your day job, right? Which is a beautiful thing. I always say, with our Authority Bridge clients, you may not love your job, but what can you mine from your job? Like, what experiences are you having probably daily with others that you can teach from? But boy, I can only imagine that job is so metaphor rich, and that's huge.
You know, it's helped me in so many different ways because,
Yeah,
of course, I've have to interact with customers. I have to, especially when I was a dealer,
yeah.
you have to be a performer. You have to be engaging. You have to. So I built relation and I've built
And talk about high emotions.
Mhm.
Like, you're gonna see people at their best, you're gonna see
That works.
people at their worst, you're gonna see people that are caffeinated out of their minds, all the way to, yeah, medicated out of their minds.
The best part of
So, yeah.
so the best part of me is because I work 3 3:30 in the morning to 11:30 in the morning. So I work both
Wow.
graveyard, overnight, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So it gives me an opportunity to come home, I take a nap, whatever, and I start preparing for my podcast, or I prepare if I have a meeting
Amazing.
with someone, anything. So I'm able to work that schedule because it fit.
Yeah.
Because now when I get home, I can focus on growing this business, growing
Good
whatever
for
business
you.
I decide to do. So yeah,
That's a beautiful thing.
yeah.
That's why I always say, like, for people that are building, a business like this, but they need and want to have a day job. I always say, pick a bridge job, a job that helps you to, be able to take care of, make ends meet, all those kinds of things. But choose a bridge job based on what we call a meal plan.
Mm,
And the meal stands for, it's an acronym, right? It's who can you meet? What can you earn? What can it make you available to do? Or what can you learn? And
mhm,
like this position is a great thing in that I'm sure you're probably meeting some interesting people, probably earning, a good income so you can take care
mhm,
of your family,
yeah.
but it's also making you available. Like there's a lot of positions where, you might get paid well, but you're working 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night. You're not going to be available for anything of building your own business. So like that's such a great example of a good meal plan. And you're learning, like, you're learning on the job. You're learning by doing the thing that you want to do more of. So you got the meal plan, my man. That's fantastic.
Oh yeah, no, and like you said, I do earn well, so it gives me the opportunity to actually learn and build and focus on building it correctly and getting
Yep.
to the point where, like how you said, where I can earn I'm like, I'm earning this amount in this amount of time. Imagine if I extended it. Now if I
Yep.
work more, if I'm able to work from 7 a.m. starting to whatever time. So yeah, no, it's been a great experience. I'm learning. I've built some amazing relationships.
I bet.
I've invested a lot in myself. Like I started off with a $160 podcasting studio from Amazon, and I've invested quite a few.
I was gonna say, look at you now, man. You sound great. You look great. Like, come on. So that's fantastic.
Oh yeah, no, and it's been a great. Had you met me last year, is it would have been
Be a different thing.
well. No, because I've also lost 120 something pounds
Wow.
from last year,
Good
and
for you. That's incredible.
so it's been me learning how to eat it over again and all this. So it's yeah, no, it's It's been 5 years of me just learning myself
Yep.
and growing and developing and just
Well, I love that, and that's I will say, I encourage, but I don't BS people. But people often ask me, like, "What's the key to being successful at this? To having a six-figure coaching, speaking, content creation business, if not seven-figure and beyond?" And I always say, first and foremost, live your journey, right? Teach from the journey, not the destination. So it's amazing. Just in the time that we've spoken, it's amazing how you are teaching from the journey because you're living it.
yeah,
And what's interesting is that people who teach from a destination, those people don't make it. Even no matter what the destination, like you'll see people on the speaking circuit, they'll win the gold medal, right? And then they'll try to build a speaking career around that one gold medal. And a gold medal is fantastic. If you can do it, go do it. Like that's fantastic. But what's wild about gold medals, especially Olympic gold medals, is every 4 years we get a new set of gold medals, right? And it's one of those where when you teach from an achievement or you teach from a destination has a shelf life.
mm,
And it's interesting. Like, you look at people who won gold medals from Olympics 8 years ago. When they first won that gold medal, they could really get a great speaking fee. They could really, command an audience's attention. But unless they continued to live a compelling journey, just teaching from that destination, within
it's,
a couple of years, those fees start to come down, right?
mm,
But the people that are living from the journey, like yourself, losing over 100 pounds in a year, what? Building a business that's compelling and curiosity inspiring, like that's the kind of thing that you never run out of content because you're living it every day.
yeah, absolutely. Drink, think, do.
Yeah.
It's one of the top 1% of podcasts worldwide. Why did you launch it, and what impact has it had?
Yeah. Well, I always say, yeah, and I know you're a big proponent of podcasts too.
Mhm.
Like, I think everybody should have a podcast because it's at a foundational level. What's beautiful about a podcast is it is the best excuse to have conversations with interesting people.
Yes, and learn
Like,
so much.
so I always say, like, that is one of the key reasons to have a podcast, whether you've got 4 people listening it. If it's just your mom listening to your podcast, still worth considering doing
Yeah,
because it's this great excuse to have great conversations. And that was me. I'm naturally curious. I love to, meet with people and dig deeper into their story and all of those things. But what I also realized was there were people that I was coaching, and I loved the impact of the one-on-one. There are audiences that I was speaking to, whether it was 300 or 3,000 people, and I loved those touches, but it's hard to continue that conversation. It's hard to continue to build that relationship. And I've had organizations that brought me back year after year, which is a true honor, but it's only one time a year, right? So with podcasting, it's a way that I could touch, support, encourage, equip those audiences and build that tribe in a way where we can stay in connection and keep growing together. And so Dream Think Do, it's actually my third podcast. My first one never saw the light of day. My second one became bonus content for Dream Think Do. And then Dream Think Do for me stuck because I loved the message of it. And, Dream Think Do, my hope is it's a catchy name because, it's trademarked now. Like we own that,
yeah,
right? But Dream Think Do is not just marketing, it's actually a 3-step process because I really believe that we need to give ourselves permission and space to dream and do that independently from thinking. Like like we talked about, I love to-do lists. I love strategy. I have spreadsheets that would make you cry. They're like a thing of beauty, right? But I always say, like, you want to give yourself space and time and permission to dream before you get into thinking mode, before you get into planning mode, before you get into strategy, because most people will dream for a little bit and then they'll start to plan too early. They'll start to say, well, I don't really have the money. I don't really have the time. I don't really have the network. And so they'll either shut down those dreams or make them smaller. And what I say is give yourself permission and space and time to dream first and then move into thinking, right? To ask those what ifs. What if we could do that? How might we do that, right? And allow yourself to dream and then to think. I'm a big proponent of planning, right? Just don't do it too soon. And then doing, right? To actually take action. And you know this. I know for me, that was my challenge was I could dream and I could strategize, but then I would move into analysis paralysis and I'd never take action. And so I realized it's really those 3 steps together that make all the difference. And so I named the show that because I needed to be reminded of it weekly.
Absolutely. Yes, thank you, man. This has been great. I know our time is very limited right now, but
Yeah.
thank you so much for being such a wonderful guest, man. And I know you set a goal to launch 1 million dreams.
Yeah.
Where are you now on that mission?
Well, what's funny about that is I don't know about you, but like, the Wright brothers set a goal of flying before they knew how they'd do it.
Yeah.
And I have this dream of helping to launch 1 million dreams in my lifetime. That's, one of the reasons why we started to coach other coaches was I started to realize like, boy, if I work, 24/7, 365, like I can only help so many people. Like, or if I could speak to an audience of 5,000 every week, I got to speak like for 30 years in order to hit 1 million people, right? Like I started to do the math and it's like, wait, if I could equip people to not only do it and do it well, but to also get paid well to do it, then I could hit my million in a much shorter period of time. But what's amazing about that is, in some ways, learning to quantify it is one of the great mysteries. So we get success stories all the time from Dream Think Do. We get success stories from our coaching and our speaking and our coaches and our speakers and all those people that we have helped. And so we know we've helped thousands, and we're working on ways to quantify that, with more specifics and things. But I figure, hey, even if we fail miserably at quantifying it, if our goal is to help millions, even if we fall short, it's still going to be pretty amazing. And it has been. So we're working on better ways to quantify it. We know we've helped thousands, but we're marching towards 1 million and we'll figure it out as we go.
Awesome. Hopefully this episode can help.
Absolutely. This is one more way to do it, right? Like partnering with amazing people like you, you never know. Somebody might have heard today and said, that's what I needed, or that's the next step, or they were encouraged. And who knows? I know you have a lot of globe changers that listen to your show. So I love it.
But thank you so much, man. This has been great. Now we've come to the part of the show where you get the solo screen and just plug away and let everybody know where exactly they can find you, everything.
I love it. Absolutely. So I am honored and I would love for you to come hang out with us. Probably the easiest place to start is to go to mitchmatthews.com. That's where you can get all sorts of free resources. You can find out more about Dream, Think, Do. There's a number of different things that you can do to plug in. And again, we want to help you to live more of the life you were put on the planet to live. You can also go specifically to mitchmatthews.com/4things. We send out a 4 things email each week that's packed with strategies and stories to help you. And so you can go grab that at mitchmatthews.com/4things as well.
All right, Mitch. Thank you so much for being such a wonderful guest. But let me just close out the show right quick. So we can say a few words before you leave.
Love it.
Thank you so much, brother, man. I appreciate you being on the show.
I am honored and I'm excited, man. This is the beginning of a beautiful relationship. I love it.
Oh, definitely awesome. Thank you so much, man. All right, everybody. Another great episode is in the cans. If Mitch's story sparks something in you, go check out the Dream, Think, Do podcast and explore his 6-figure sequence and authority bridge systems. And if you're stuck at your own bad fit ceiling, share this episode with a friend because sometimes the breakthrough starts with just one conversation. Stay bold, stay purposeful, and stay wise. You know how your boy Wize does it? Peace out.